देवी और सज्जनों, हम आज का कार्यक्रम बस कुछ ही क्षणों में शुरू करेंगे। कृपया सब अपने स्थान ग्रहण कर लें और अपने फ़ोन साइलेंट मोड पर कर दें। We once again request all our esteemed dignitaries and delegates to please be seated as we are starting in next 2 minutes. Our chief guest will be joining us in any moment from now. देवी और सज्जनों, हमारे आज के कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि और अन्य गणमान्य अतिथि अब सभागार में पधार चुके हैं। कृपया सब खड़े होकर जोरदार तालियों से उनका स्वागत करें। मुख्य अतिथि श्री तोकन साहू, ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया। कैन वी गिव देम अ मोर एनर्जेटिक एंड अ थंडरस राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज? चीफ गेस्ट श्री तोकन साहू, ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया। तालियां बजती रहें देवी और सज्जनों। Guest of honor, Shri Mahendra Dev, Chairman, Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Shri Srinivas Kati Kitla, Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. Shri V. Uma Shankar, Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, now joining us on stage. Kindly keep the applause going. Let's once again give them a very hearty and a warm round of applause. We also take this opportunity to welcome the state ministers. We request our dignitaries, chief guests, Shri Tokan Sahu ji, guest of honor Shri Mahendra Dev ji, Shri Srinivas Kati Kitla ji, Shri V. Uma Shankar ji to please grace the stage with their benign presence. We once again extend a very warm and hearty welcome to our esteemed dignitaries, our esteemed chief guest on the stage, our esteemed ministers of state off the stage, principal secretaries, our delegates. Thank you very much for joining us. As a gesture of respect and gratitude, we now extend ceremonial felicitations to our honored dignitaries on stage. To do the honors, may I now invite Ms. Rupa Mishra, Joint Secretary SBM, and Ms. Isha Kalia, Joint Secretary Amrut to please join us on stage and do the honors. अब हम अपने मंचासीन माननीय अतिथियों का सम्मान करेंगे. सबसे पहले हम हमारे मुख्य अतिथि श्री तोकन साहू जी का सम्मान करेंगे, Honorable Minister of State, Housing and Urban Affairs. Can we once again extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Shri Tokan Sahuji. We now welcome our guest of honor, Shri Mahendra Dev, Chairman, Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Kindly keep the applause going. We now welcome Shri Srinivas Kati Kitla, Secretary. We now welcome Shri V. Uma Shankar ji, Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Please put your hands together and welcome Shri V. Uma Shankar ji. We now welcome Shri Srinivas Kati Kitla ji, Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Please put your hands together and welcome our distinguished Secretary, sir. We once again extend our heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed guests for their gracious presence. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin with the presentations on the outcomes of the breakout session that took place over the past 2 days. One very important announcement for all our esteemed speakers that each presentation is timed for 10 minutes. After 7 minutes, a buzzer will ring, which will be your cue to conclude the presentation within 3 minutes. To help you keep track of the time, a digital clock will be shown on the screen. I repeat, this announcement is for our esteemed speakers that each presentation is of 10 minutes. A digital clock will be shown on the screen, which will help you keep a track of the time. After 7 minutes, a buzzer will ring, which will be your cue to conclude the presentation within 3 minutes.
Explain that all this happened yesterday, 4 sessions happened yesterday, 3 today. Uska outcome of the discussions.
4 breakout sessions happened yesterday and 3 happened today morning. So these presentations are about the outcome of the breakout sessions that were held over the past 2 days, that is yesterday and today morning. Today, during these sessions, teams shared their ideas and suggestions for building the cities of tomorrow. So in front of our esteemed dignitaries on stage, these presentations will take place now. Let's begin with the presentation from the team that focused on regional planning, transit-oriented development, city mobility planning. May I now invite on stage Mr. Gurjeet Singh Dhillon, Director Mahua, and Ms. Rohina Gupta, Director Mahua, for the presentation.
Good morning, Honorable MOS sir, Secretary sir, seniors, colleagues, senior officers from multilaterals, embassies, experts from industry and participants. We extend our sincere thanks to Honorable Minister sir and Secretary sir for their visionary leadership and guidance, which set the tone on day 1 for deliberations on sustainable and inclusive urban growth. We would also like to thank Tara ma'am, whose leadership and commitment have been instrumental in advancing India's urban and regional planning agenda. Yesterday, breakout session 1 on urban and regional planning saw the participation of over 250 delegates and 16 distinguished speakers representing center and state governments, academia, industry and development partners, reflecting the depth and diversity shaping India's evolving urban landscape. Session had rich discussions and generated practical insights. I would request Rohina ji to present the key takeaways from the session.
A very good morning to everybody. Thank you all. We had a very enriching session yesterday and a great lineup of speakers and panelists who took some time out and told us various perspectives across technology and economics and planning and how that can help us shape our cities better. So, next please. So we set the context of why TOD and regional planning matter, and that happened, of course, as we had said in the plenary session. The urbanization context of we know that our cities will grow, they'll accommodate 50% of the population of the country by 2050 and contribute to about 80% of the overall GDP of the country. So it's imperative to manage the sustainable urbanization to accommodate these 10 crore households over the next 20 years, and the time to act for that is now. So, and we also know that transit over time have been the arteries of development. They have been connecting our cities, they provide opportunities to live and work. So TOD and development-oriented transit, both are equally important. Transit-oriented development and development-oriented transit. Because this enables compact, mixed-use and transit-linked development to reduce the urban sprawl and carbon emissions and also the traffic congestion. Transit should shape development and vice versa, creating a two-way synergy, creating compact cities. Technology has always been an enabler, in fact more so now, because it helps to improve the planning, accessibility, and give forecasting models for the future growth, increasing overall efficiency of the planning. TOD also, apart from TOD, the transit helps to connect various regions and provide the cities and enable them to become economic growth hubs. So regional planning frameworks like Delhi NCR, Mumbai Surat Economic Region, and in the east, the Bhubaneswar Cuttack Puri region, these have been anchoring economic transformation. Next, please. So on technology, we had some very interesting insights. One is how AI, GIS, and digital twins can help in predictive modeling, accessibility mapping, and infrastructure planning. We also got to learn about people near transit framework of Chennai, the digital public infrastructure which is inspired by Aadhaar and UPI, and how efficiency has been increased by NCRTC by the integrated data systems, which have led to 15% reduced wait times, 18% energy efficiency gains, and 70% better feeder capture. But some challenges still need to be addressed. So this is like in technology, we saw that there is some data silo, and there is the fragmented AI adoption, and the need to integrate all of these is imperative going forward. And also the limited interagency coordination needs to be sorted out so that we can use technology better. In the second subsession of economic value, TOD as a growth multiplier, we got to learn various models of land value capture, premium FAR, development charges, TDR, stamp duties, etc. The speakers also enlightened us on the urban transport fund, where sustainable financing have been used in the metro influence zones, and how that has been used to fund infrastructure, and infrastructure then gives back to the city. Then integrated transit with airspace is a model that CITCO enlightened us on how mixed-use developments, PMAY-linked housing, and these integrated commercial, residential, and green infrastructure has helped to increase not only TOD's revenue, but also the inclusivity. The gross value added impact of MMR's TOD and regional planning strategies, where they are planning to add some $130 billion and 3 million jobs in the overall MMR region. PPP is an imperative component going forward, because these incentives are, there's some incentives which are required to encourage the private participation in the whole value chain. So there are some challenges that need to be addressed, such as fragmented institutional and governance structure, and the infrastructure upgrade overall to make TOD successful, specifically the walkability. In the planning, we saw how cities are growth hub and also the creative redevelopment of cities. So both are important at the macro scale and at the micro scale. And we had again an esteemed esteemed panelists who had discussed on the holistic and context-sensitive planning, whether TOD should be all across the city or whether they should be location-sensitive. The success is it's imperative. It is basically balancing the infrastructure with housing, connectivity, and sustainability. TOD planning should also conserve heritage and integrate climate resilience while adding the inclusivity aspect. The connectivity gaps is something that was stressed upon yesterday. The last mile connectivity, the walkability, and how we can use and fix these issues as a whole. We also saw Telangana's spatial planning, the integrated spatial mobility and economic planning, which is helping to achieve the overall vision of the cities. The institutional coordination by establishment of UMTA is something that has come across as a very strong point to ensure unified transport planning and multimodal integration. So the key takeaways of the session: what makes TOD work? The institutional coordination, policy governance, affordable housing, open data ecosystems, and global inspirations are some examples that we saw, which are going forward the key enablers for TOD. And also we saw some non-negotiable components that are part of TOD and regional planning, which include a human-centric design to ensure our cities are inclusive, livable, and sustainable. So we have to make sure that the roads are not only roads, but they're converted to streets to bring the human element in. We have to have last mile connectivity, be sensitive to heritage and climate, and make the walkability and design first element that have to be embedded right from the start. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I now invite Ms. Isha Kalia, Joint Secretary Amrut, Swarnidhi and Livelihood Mission, to present on reimagining urban livelihoods, cities of opportunity.
Good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais, all the delegates from states, various partners from bilaterals, multilaterals. Good morning to everyone. So our session was Reimagining Urban Livelihood, Cities of Opportunity, in which we focused on having different mix of participants from the industry, people from the states, and also from various multilaterals. Our session included presentations, that is stories from the field. We had kept a focus state of Kerala because very recently Kerala has declared it to be extreme poverty-free state. So we had a presentation on how they did that, what was the definition of extreme poverty, what was the strategy of identification, microplan preparation, implementation, and monitoring. Then we had panel discussions focusing on self-employment. So we wanted to figure out what are the key enablers of self-employment, in which we focused on skilling, entrepreneurship, financial inclusion as one of the enabler, digital adoption when we see UPI payments big time these days, institutional partnerships and leveraging the SATs, in which Gujarat share their example. So we had an interesting mix of speakers who spoke about each enabler individually. Then our second panel was towards Inclusive Bharat, unlocking the livelihood frontiers, in which all the emerging sectors of livelihoods that are coming up, be it gig, be it transport, be it green jobs, we discussed all of them. The care economy was also discussed. So all these emerging sectors for the future was the focus of the second panel. For the field stories, we took a very interesting example of Assam, in which they are leveraging the self-help groups for municipal service delivery. Now this is one sector, all the states we want to push for, that all the robust ecosystem of SAGs can be leveraged to deliver municipal services, collect taxes, do water quality testing, etc. One family, one entrepreneur and planning model of Andhra Pradesh was also discussed, in which their smart streets, where vending spaces have become part of the planning ecosystem, was discussed. Another initiative Andhra has taken is one family, one entrepreneur. Then the convergence model Sahakar Taxi is an interesting initiative in which for the first time the cooperatives have ventured into the field of transport. And now these cooperatives have started a pilot in Delhi and Ahmedabad and Gujarat under the Sahakari Taxi model. So we showcase that to the states and to all the participants. Next please. So the key areas of deliberation included the platforms of opportunity on our journey to become Viksit Bharat. The lot of opportunities in various sectors. So we wanted to showcase that what are the sectors we need to focus on and what are the sectors and the opportunities that they are providing. Then government as a key enabler and a facilitator in the coming times. Now in this, the example of PM Swanidhi is very relevant, in which it is a scheme that has acted as an incubator, in which street vendors was one segment that had potential but never was recognized because they did not have access to formal credit. Just with a little bit of nudge from the government and the support, now these street vendors, almost 40% of them have now taken loans beyond what we are providing them. So this is a perfect example where government can just act as an enabler, and after the 3 tranches of loan, the vendors are now themselves independent enough to venture into the market. We need to have tailored interventions for skills and credit products. We're talking about specialization. We're talking about the focus group. And this is also highlighted in the pilot that we're doing for urban livelihoods, in which we are focusing on 7 sectors of domestic, care, transport, gig, and others. Digital inclusion plays an important role in democratizing the transactions, and we would see only under Swanidhi in 4-5 years, almost 6 lakh crore worth of transactions have happened through them. Convergence between the government, industry and academia. Now this is the crucial part of our livelihood sector. This sector cannot be seen in isolation. We need support of all other missions. We need support from the industry and also from the academic institutions for incubation and entrepreneurship development. Next please. When we talk about challenges, so first challenge was the credit constraint for the informal sector arising from information symmetry, because these people, they don't have a credit history. Now with digital, what we are making is a credit history for these people, and therefore because of this credit constraint, many times people don't get opportunity to function. Second is skilling has to meet the demand of the market. There has to be a match between the skilling and the need for the market. So therefore alignment with the industry is very important. Third is limited mentorship and incubation support that needs to be strengthened. Now if we see globally, our women workforce participation is less than the global average, and largely the analysis shows that the care is one sector that really needs to be strengthened if we have to increase the participation of women in our workforce. Lack of inclusive planning. How many of us plan our cities? We plan for micro enterprises and vending zones. Why shouldn't we planning for these micro enterprises and vending be part of the integral part of our master plans and our planning in the city? Fragmented coordination between government, industry, community is another challenge. Next, please. Now, good practices. So we spoke about a SAM model where they've leveraged SAGs for municipal service delivery. We spoke about Andhra. We spoke about cooperative model of Sahakar Taxi, Kerala model. Then Telangana shared a very specific study that they have done in Sangareddy, in which they first identified what are the various occupations in which urban poor are engaged, what are their demands, and largely the demand was credit, followed by housing and other health needs. And third, we discussed about Mumbai, how the skilling care ecosystem done by Tata Trust there is helping increase the women participation in the sector. Surya Mitra program, where the MNRE officials told us about how we can converge with PM Surya Ghar Yojana, and so many. There's a potential of almost 40 lakhs jobs that would be created by 2030 with convergence with renewable energy ministry alone. Community-based care models of Brazil, Korea and Mexico were also spoken by the panelists. Next, please. So the key recommendations and the way forward. We first of all need to identify whom we are targeting. So for that, we need a comprehensive database of informal sector workers. Few states have done it. But now under the new pilot, we are also trying to do that. Then we need customized skilling training and capacity building. So we need customized support for each target group. If we talk about care, we talk about domestic, we talk about labor, construction, every target group needs a targeted intervention, targeted skilling. Convergence is required big time. We've already spoken about, for example, a labor department. Now they have a e-shram ID for all the workers. Now we can do the credit availability through our schemes, and the social welfare needs of a labor person can be met by the schemes of the labor ministry. So this is one example where we converge with ministries, like skilling is doing big time skilling, but if you create the courses that meet the requirement of the market, so skilling and credit can be linked through the livelihood mission, and skilling can be provided by the skill ministry. So these are few examples of convergence, how we all need to come together to boost this sector. Leveraging SAGs for plugging the implementation gaps. What we've seen under Amrut, that the initiative of Amrut Mitra has plugged in the implementation gap in the cities. Now, cities can fund their O&M for parks, water bodies, all through this, leveraging the SAG ecosystem. Spatial equity in planning and design. We have to make our cities equitable. We have to make them inclusive, and everyone should feel involved in their growth. So therefore, spatial equity in planning and design is a must that we need to provide. So therefore, with all these initiatives, we can make our cities that are inclusive, that are vibrant, that are Atmanirbhar, powered by people, and nurtured by planning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kalia. Up next, we'll hear from the team that discussed construction and demolition waste management. I invite on stage Mr. Shailendra Singh, DDG CPWD, and Mr. V.K. Chaurasia, Advisor Mahua, for the presentation.
Dignitaries and dais and all esteemed guests, honorable ministers from different states and other organizations. This session on enhancing C&D waste processing and utilization, a roadmap for reduction of dependence on virgin construction material, was a third session, and yesterday it was discussed at length. The session lasted for around 3 hours, and Honorable Minister of Delhi, Sri Ashish Sood sir, also all along the session he was there, and he was, we are fortunate that he could give his comments also, suggestions also, that enrich this entire discussion. So under this were the speakers. Speakers were basically from this perspective of national and policy perspective. We divided our presentation in this, and then sector drivers, implementers, and approach and best practices, then standard settings and research advancement and utilization, industry approach, that value for construction, and city level planning. So we tried that comprehensively, all aspects are covered, and accordingly the presenters were selected from different experience organizations and institutions. Next. So this was the challenges identified during that discussion. At the generation state, especially C&D waste management, the lack of dedicated transportation of C&D waste has been reported to be one of the area that leads plant work inefficiently, and also adequate quantity is not reaching. Then unauthorized dumping, that is lack of tracking up, and penalty clauses are also not there. So in this case, the generation and the challenge one was observed is huge where generated. This sort of aspect is not currently considered, because the moment where it is generated, if you transport somewhere else and again then process and then bring finished material, in that case the cost become exorbitant, and even it become costlier than this, let us say, virgin material. So in that case, viability is not there, and in spite of plant operators, they are processing and they are using that is not working. So that is one area where they're there. Then in processing stage also there was problem that inadequate C&D waste not reaching to the plant, and a lack of confidence in buyers. This was found as one of the very weak point, where whatever the products they are preparing, buyers are not not coming forward, and there is always hitch that whether quality is acceptable or not. Similarly, cost viability, as I mentioned, recycled versus virgin, that is always a challenge, because often at the time of need, requisite strength and quantity of recycled product is not available. So anybody who is constructing their project or constructing a house, they cannot wait for a long time that when recycled product will be ready, they will take and they will go according to that. Further, it was also pointed out during discussion that the standards, specification and guideline, lot more to be done to strengthen, so that in each case, whatever the product is prepared, there is confidence from the buyers. Next. Similarly, some good practices that was presented, that was Bakarwala 100 TPD plant at New Delhi. This was on PPP basis, and then Ahmedabad 1000 TPD plant, that was also on PPP and 30-year contract. Both are running well. And from Madhya Pradesh, the state perspective was presented, that was having for large city, medium and small. Normally it is perceived that C&D waste plant is only for large town, but here even 30 TPD, 50 TPD plants are also there. And international case studies are also presented, where in case of Europe, more than even 90% is also processed and recycled. This percentage is less than 10% in our country. So huge scope is there to process that. Next. Then some of the key recommendations that emerge, that use technology to track C&D waste and transportation till processing plant. Often it happens to save cost, they used to dispose in some nearby area. And some enforcement squad that also came from Ahmedabad, that if they were dumping here and there, so they made a squad, and in right time and some other time they were penalizing and they were catching them. That was also one important thing that can bring change. Then this concerted efforts on source segregation, that is very important. If many sort of things are made in that C&D waste, in that case the operation and processing become unviable, and this holds good for all sort of waste. Then promote C&D waste where it is generated. This is very important for cost cutting and making it competitive. Similarly, mandate to offtake certain percentage in municipal, that is very important to use. Unless it starts from our home, things will not improve. So that is one thing that in all major user departments should do. Next, please. Similarly, logistic and supply chain, that is also very important, that it should reach wherever it is required. And some protocol for certification of each batch, that is very, very important. Unless that quality control is there, the product will not be very attractive. And then policy intervention related to providing initially for few years some financial incentives like reduced GST and others, so that it become attractive. Similarly, enhance recycling infrastructure, and even funding those projects which even in smaller town also, so that on cluster they can do, and adequate plants are set up so that this material is available. Promote startups and technology. This is very important for cost cutting, and matchmaking I think is very important, that where this material is available and where need is there, how to map that. That is very important. Next. Then capacity building and awareness. This is very, very important in this case, because unless you strengthen the capacity of institution, maybe center and state and ULB level, so this thing, without capacity, these things will not move fast. And creating awareness is another very important thing. Then developing digital platform is very, very important, where we can connect with people, users and buyers. Then study of let us say estimated C&D waste generation. These are some study, and some more study this is to be done. Strengthening standards is also one thing, along with stakeholder consultation. Next. So way forward is basically what challenges I have mentioned. It is to formulating integrated outlet plan, and then institutionalizing monitoring mechanism, policy and regulatory support. That is very important here in case of C&D waste. This is a new area, and take measures needed for consultation of private sector and others, so that we can find out what is acceptable, so that PPP can be enhanced. And similarly, this concerted focus on segregation is important and effective. Next, please. And this is same again way forward, that Mahua should do that protocol and also consult private partners and CND waste infrastructure to be funded in all city, and also develop a portal where these things can be exchanged and buyer and seller can be connected. And strengthening technical institution is very, very important. It can start from ministry itself and then can go to state and ULBs also, and support for requisite study, that is important. Right. Now I request DDG CPWD to add.
I'll just add 2-3 points what has already been covered by Mr. Chaurasia. Development of a portal for online reporting of generation of CND waste and its utilization will be important, both for the recyclers as well as for the users. The users will be knowing as to where the products are available in the vicinity, and they can always access those plants for procuring the things. And the next point is technical institutions. Strengthening of the institution through capacity building measures is also an important area, where one of the measure which was taken yesterday under the guidance of the ministry, that signing of the MOU with Sintef, that was basically meant for capacity building. Incisive research is very much important, because at present we are not able to segregate the CND waste to a desired level. Upscaling of the technology, incisive research will help in reclaiming more and more products out of the CND waste. So this is one area. As far as the role of CPWD is concerned, one of the agenda was to bring more and more items in the schedule of rates for general acceptability. So CPWD has added as much as 54 number of products in its schedule of rates, and they are widely being used across the industry. And with the ongoing revision of BIS codes, we are hoping that we will be bringing more and more items in our schedule of rates for greater use of CND waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Singh and Mr. Chaurasia. Let's now listen to insights from Mr. Gopal Prasad, Economic Advisor, on capacity building for urban local bodies, a roadmap to Viksit Bharat 2047.
Namaskar sabhi ko. Very good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais, all the participants from states, ULBs, and my colleagues from Mahua, and also the participants from the academia. Thank you so much for coming over here, and now I am going to present a session on the outcome of the breakout session on the capacity building. Overall, we had total 14 speakers for this session, and 5 of them were from the Center of Excellence, which MOA has with it. Then on the right hand side, we have the speakers, all these experts and practitioners. We have basically identified the challenges which have been received in Mahua from about 13 states, and then we have bucketed it into 4 parts. And this basically we had circulated the policy notes, and based on the feedback, we have tried to put it what are the kind of constraints and the challenges the ULBs are actually facing. First is the manpower and the skill deficits. There we have seen the shortage of skilled professionals, especially in those who have indicated, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka. But this is not only for particularly to these 2 states, all states are also having the same issues. Delay in filling sanction posts, most states have this kind of an issue. Limited resource to recruit expertise, limited technical expertise, like in Jharkhand, Haryana. Then we have a training and developmental gaps. So like states like Tripura, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Nagaland, we can see that there is irregular and unsystematic training, insufficient training programs to address the capacity building needs, and inadequate targeted training for the newly elected representatives also. Besides, we can also see there is a less awareness and unwillingness amongst the officials for training needs. Right-hand side, under the governance challenges, we can see digital adoption barriers are there. Say in the example, Karnataka, Tripura, MP, and Assam. Fragmented mandates and coordination gaps are there. Lack of learning culture among the ULB functionaries still persist. There is absence of role-based and outcome-linked capacity planning. Under the institutional and operational barriers, say states like in Rajasthan, Nagaland, Goa, we can see frequent staff transfers, absence and unstructured municipal cadres. Training institutes overlook ULB specific technical needs and financial resource constraints. So these are the things which we have first identified, and most of our discussion also took place on this. Now these are the areas of deliberations. Institutionalizing the capacity building through municipal cadres across all tiers of governance. Bridging technical and domain skill gaps, linking capacity building to performance-based incentive towards strengthening institutional framework, and embedding behavioral transformation and leadership training for elected representatives and officials. Integrating the digital learning ecosystem for role-based performance-linked training, strengthening partnerships among MOHUA, NIUA, states, Center of Excellence, RCUAs, academia, and international agencies. Then we came to certain key recommendations, which have been deliberated well. And then based on these, we have tried to identify what are these. First is the institutional strengthening. That means we are trying to say establish municipal cadre and the capacity building cells, align with the mission Karma Yogi, mission mode coordination between center and states. That is what is first. Second is competency-based learning. Map ULB roles and acquired competencies, develop customized pathways, adopt a rule-to-role model. Next is the course curriculum and pedagogy. So standardized training quality, use experiential, case-based and group learning tailored for different cadres. Fourth is knowledge and research. Encourage quick research, documentation and dissemination of best practices through COE networks and newsletters. Then comes the financing mechanisms. So dedicate around 1 to 2% of the ULB budget to capacity building, link central grants to capacity building, reforms and donor support. Then comes the inclusivity and outreach. Focus on smaller ULBs, hill and northeastern states, promote multilingual hybrid models for equitable participation where every ULB defines its own own learning roadmap. Then comes the behavioral and the leadership skills. Foster leadership, emotional intelligence, and citizen-centric service orientation. Then comes the collaborative governance, especially strengthening inter-institutional linkages and promote partnership-driven implementation for Viksit Bharat 2047. Now, before I go to the next slide, I would like to mention first, we had the honor of having Deputy Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, Shri Arun Sao Sahab, who was in our breakout session. And he also gave a very good examples and the way forward in terms of how the ULBs should be strengthened, both in terms of their operational capacity, their skill requirement, and also towards achieving the goals of the Viksit Bharat. He gave the example saying, when most of the ULBs are not able to even pay their own electricity bills, salary to their own employees, rent for their premises, how are they going to actually devote the resources as well as the time for the capacity building? Then he also said, every ULB should have their own need, their own requirement. They should map it out and then think that, okay, how they are going to actually build up. And in terms of what kind of a skill upgradation and the other resources which they required in order to deliver their services efficiently. We also have one kind of a anecdote which says that स्कूल बच्चे जाते नहीं हैं, स्कूल भेजे जाते हैं. इसका मतलब है कि कहीं ना कहीं हम ये नहीं पहचान पा रहे हैं कि हर एक ULBs की जो अपनी स्पेसिफिक रिक्वायरमेंट है वो क्या है, और हम ट्रेनिंग के मटेरियल्स हो या ट्रेनिंग के पेडागोजी हो या जो उसके अलग अलग हमारे जो मॉड्यूल्स हैं उसको हम डेवलप कर रहे हैं. देयर आर मेनी कोर्सेज अंडर द आईगोट इवन वेयर द यूएलबीज हैव नॉट कंज्यूम्ड. So that means कि we require to understand exactly if what is their requirement, and we have to outreach, we have to make our outreach, we have to reach out to them, and we have to ensure that okay, they should get rather trained in the area where actually they want to get trained. Coming to the next slide, Viksit Bharat 2047, it envisages capacity building as developing skills and competencies across various sectors to achieve India's vision of becoming a developed nation by 2047. So this can be done through capacity building as a dynamic and learner-centric ecosystem in ULBs and states for prompt and efficient delivery of services through collaborative city-specific solutions, innovation, and practice-driven learning for Viksit Bharat 2047. One also point came up during the discussion that in 2047, what would be the role of the ULBs which we are seeing today? Perhaps they might be like a supervisory body only, and the core functions, core services for the citizens would be delivered by the parastatals. We can further discuss and debate on this issue, but with this, I just want to end over here. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. Next, we have a presentation on urban governance by Mr. Pradeep Kumar, JS Mahua.
A very good afternoon to all the honorable guests and dignitaries. So our breakout session focused on urban governance, and we had a wide range of speakers from the practitioners to academia to the development partners. So we had started with the spotlight conversation, and then we had two panel discussions which deliberated upon the issues of reimagining the urban governance, integrating peri-urban areas and the strengthening of institutional structures. And the second panel discussion had deliberated upon future-ready urban governance, financing and digital pathways for transformation. Next. So the key areas of deliberations were the peri-urban areas and transition areas, administrative and political structures, human resource management, municipal finance, and digital governance. Next. The challenges as far as the peri-urban and the transition areas were concerned, the first one was the institutional arrangement where there was a multiplicity of authorities. So we had the regional, the rural local bodies, the urban local bodies, the development authorities, parastatals, and the SPVs, without any proper coordination, and which often results in poor services, and decision making also gets delayed. The second challenge that we discussed were the planning and the infrastructure development, the conversion of land from agricultural to residential without any proper planning, which actually leads to unplanned and haphazard land use. And the environmental management, the environmental issues that affect both the transitional areas and nearby towns and cities, unregulated groundwater extraction, shrinking green cover, poor waste management, and unchecked industrial and construction activities. So the after the discussions, the recommendations that came were mostly to adopt simplified land pooling and town planning laws as far as the legal and policy framework part is concerned. Regarding the rural-urban partnership, the urban local bodies and the rural local bodies to collaborate for municipal shared services, management of water, waste, and environmental resources, to develop a financing mechanism by establishing a dedicated transition fund, to establish institutional structures, multi-departmental state-level transition units at state level and local transition units within the existing local institutions for on-ground planning monitoring, and for environmental stewardship to integrate nature-based solutions. Next. The challenges that we discussed vis-a-vis the administrative and the political structures. The first one was the partial devolution of functions, which limits the ability of the local bodies to plan, regulate, and to deliver the essential urban services. The para-statal bodies as the parallel structures, which work in silos with overlapping functions with the ULBs, and no accountability towards the urban local bodies. Then again, the multiplicity of departments that work in silos, the housing, the urban development, and the local self-government. The ward committees that are weak and the area sabhas, and very few cities have functional ward committees despite the legal provisions. So the recommendations of the group were that there should be devolution of funds, function and functionaries. There should be an integrated system for parastatal bodies. They need to work in an integrated system rather than as parallel governance structure. Encourage performance-based incentive, introduce performance-linked grants and recognition to motivate urban local bodies. States to rank cities based on transparency, service quality, and citizen engagement. To promote citizen-centric governance, institutionalize ward committees and area sabhas. And regular publication of the municipal budgets, project updates, and SLBs in the public domain should be made mandatory. As far as the human resource management part was concerned, it was observed that the challenges were the acute shortage of qualified and technically trained staff, and crucial posts remained vacant, slow and fragmented recruitment process, which is largely state-controlled, and there is no unified municipal cadre, and mostly the appointments are through deputation. And it was also observed that there was weak coordination among teams. Even where the staff existed, the coordination among the departments, whether it's the technical, financial, and the administrative, it was very weak. And training and capacity building part also was a challenge. So it was recommended that there should be a dedicated municipal cadre, capacity building, competency-based learning, training delivery through hub and spoke network, training linked to incentives, single unified national digital platform, a one-stop shop supporting blended learning, bite-sized learning modules. The state should establish comprehensive HRMS for recruitment, training, redeployment, and performance-based appraisals of the staff, and training in the new and emerging areas to build municipal capacities in data analytics, climate-sensitive urban planning, PPP, communication, and community engagement. Municipal finance, the challenges were that as of now, the revenues that are being generated, they are just hardly 1% of the GDP. There is over-dependence of transfer on the revenue in forms of grants, so it's almost 56%. The weak property tax and user charge collection, and limited access to market-based finance, and very weak financial management system. So the recommendations were that the property tax collection system should be strengthened. Land-based financing or value capture financing instruments should be encouraged. Municipal bonds should be facilitated, and market-based financing also should be promoted. Establishing state-level intermediaries, adopting accrual-based double entry accounting, and creating state-level PPP cells. As far as the challenges in the digital governance part were concerned, so they lacked the sufficient hardware, the software, as well as the trained human resources. Also, the connectivity of internet was a concern. And then we had observed that there was fragmented legacy systems, limited digital capacity and funding, and there were data and security concerns. So we recommended that there has to be a unified service platform to deploy integrated digital platforms for seamless public delivery. The design should be citizen-centric. Establishment of physical touch points in each ward in forms of common service centers, And there has to be a robust infrastructure to strengthen the IT systems, the network security and cyber security frameworks. In the end, we also discussed about the good practices. Some case studies were made as far as the international case studies are concerned from South Africa, United States of America, Mexico and Manila. Back home, the rural-urban transition policy of Orissa, the initiatives by Ministry of Rural Development, the Bangalore's urban governance structure, the Information Kerala Mission, GIS-based property tax Bengaluru, structural reforms in Assam, and Telangana reform-oriented urban governance where build now the next generation unified approval system, and then one additional collector for both rural and urban areas. VCF growth corridors identified around metro cities for charging betterment fee, and to identify core urban region around Ring Road. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. We now move to the topic circular economy, closing the loop for sustainable municipal solid and liquid waste management by Ms. Rupa Mishra, Joint Secretary, SBM.
Namaskar. This was session 6, and we called the session Closing the Loop for Sustainable Municipal Solid and Liquid Waste Management. We started with closing the loop, but by the time I finish my presentation in 10 minutes, we will show you where we reached. So our panelists, of course, were led by honorable ministers from India's largest state, Uttar Pradesh, and co-chaired by India's smallest state, Sikkim. And of course, we had great range of panelists, some even international speakers who joined us online, and with a time of almost 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in their countries. So that shows the commitment that people have for this subject. Now, we look at design thinking, which was led by our chair. When we thought of a large, conceptualized a large event, earlier, traditionally, we would start with logistics, law and order, traffic, etc. But this time, here was Mahakumbh, this century's largest human congregation ever witnessed on the globe, and the design thinking had zero waste and circularity in the centrality of it. That shows the transition. Here is a picture from India's smallest state, Sikkim. Every single vehicle has a pouch attached in its car, in the vehicle. No single person is allowed to litter on the road. And you see the different handmade pouches that are there. And trust me, Sikkim is a very, very clean state, and they are about to become a no landfill state by December this year. So with these stalwarts leading our session, Uttar Pradesh and Sikkim, we decided that we have to narrow down because Secretary Sir had given us just 2 hours to cover this massive subject. And if you look at the streams of waste that get generated in India, they are multiple, 11 of them. We had to cover municipal solid and liquid waste, but even within that time, we could observe that the tendency of the speakers oriented more towards solid waste. So the deliberation topics were diverse, trying to cover the entire value chain from Indian policy, the transition from a linear model to a circular model with the modifications of the solid waste management rules, the extended producer responsibility, to global practices, global regulations, both Asian as well as European, moving on to the various pathways of organic waste, how India is propelling and nudging its policy and action of moving towards compost to gas, how our inert material is moving different directions, building national highways, how cement plants need not just be dumping yards for us, but they can be a partner, an effective partner in co-processing of the RDF if used and planned properly. How do we unlock the potential of biosolids that come from our STPs and FSTPs? So we also had Gujarat share its experience of how a state is planning in terms of implementing the circularity, and of course, financing, most important element, people at the centrality of the change. So very important was when you have 11, 12 areas of deliberation, the House had to be brought to certain common shared vision. So as a group, we came to certain shared vision. The first one is we want visibly clean cities. And for that, it is today, the time is to act now. And as Honorable Union Minister Manohar Lalji always says, it is not about just having a pakhwada or a Swachhta Hi Seva. It is about having round-the-year cleaning, and he brought in the concept of cleanliness target tuning and public advocacy with it, so that this is a daily matter. The second shared vision is India is saying no to landfills. No more it is just about cleaning up the cities and dumping it there. Yesterday also all of us witnessed the rollout of the Dump Site Remediation Accelerator program, where 214 India's largest sites have been taken up to be cleared on an accelerated mode. The third shared vision, let us no more call waste waste. Waste is wealth, waste is a resource. The moment we realize that, the way we handle waste will change. And the fourth common vision is very clearly how do we bring in more public ownership and participation, just the way Sikkim and various others have shown us the way. You can see the example. This is a mandi in Indore. In Indore, every vegetable vendor sits down with a gila kachra and the sukha kachra bin there. Nobody is telling this. You're seeing people changing from plastic bags to cloth bags to home composting. Children using handmade products in Diwali and Dashera rather than going and procuring various designer items from the market. So people hold the key. So where does India stand? From about a 40 crore population today, when we are going to more than 50 or maybe double it by the time India is 100, a very natural corollary is the increase of waste generation. So we have to be ready to handle it. When we started the Swachh Bharat mission 10 years back, we were talking of access to facilities at our doorstep. Then we looked at waste management, now waste processing. Now we are talking of the fourth phase, which is circularity, which is much beyond the regular waste management. Similar would be the trend in even liquid waste management. However, if you see culturally, India is not a wasteful nation. Culturally, socially, our ethos is reduce, reuse, recycle. And if you look at the comparison with other countries, the data speaks for itself. So of course, while Honorable Prime Minister has given the clarion call of India leading the lifestyle for environment, we now need to see how we put it in a manner so that it is a win-win for cities, industry, the informal sector being formalized, and of course, the citizens' experience. We discussed about good practices, starting from Bogota's circular economy strategy, how Waste Pickers Association were authorized to manage waste, to Amsterdam's circular strategy, to various other, the recycling and the drop box facility that Germany has. So various of these international cases were discussed, and also the good cases of India were discussed. We will come up with a detailed paper to share this with everybody. And this is just a snapshot of Gujarat. Gujarat, if you see, handles its solid and liquid waste management by setting up various processing plants. This is about the phase 3, which is waste processing. But the moment you look at circularity, it has to be embedded not just as a thematic area of urban, but a cross-cutting area, integrating into urban planning, housing, mobility, etc. Thereafter, we discussed about various challenges of policy, of implementation, financing, and of course, the various cross-cutting challenges. I'll discuss a few right now. The informality of the sector was, of course, something that came up, and here, the recommendation that came was how to create a win-win situation for the industry so that the formalization increases. How do we create a system of sharing the EPR revenue with the ULBs, while of course policy are changing, the rules are changing, urban local bodies possibly are way behind in terms of understanding how to implement all this, and creating a value chain for different waste streams. An interesting thing came up. Do we need parastatals to handle specialized waste? There is an endless discussion around it. Do we need cadre of environmental engineers to handle waste? Or do we need to create more competency within the same skill set? Possibly this is not either or. We will have to move with a mix of all of it because the next decade will go towards addressing these issues. Similarly, for implementation, ownership is of course there, and then the demand and supply of various waste streams. The cement factory said that in another 10 years, we will not even get the waste in the form of RDF if cities continue to create an efficient channel of giving us the waste. So that will be the kind of requirement. So the key lies in collecting it and handing it over. And these were, of course, the various other aspects. We will be sharing it. Most importantly, this is not just about waste management and visible cleanliness. With this, we will unlock an immense potential of economic value, of job creation, of reduction in GHG gases. And this is a very conservative estimate by 2030. And as the way forward, while recommendations are many, we are listing down a couple as immediate steps. Number one, let's use the low-hanging model to move fast. We have in India star rating of every city. There are 7-star cities, there are 5-star cities, and there are 18 cities that are currently planning under Cities 2.0 only on circularity. So this comes about a 50. Can we create one city in every district of India that is going to lead the circularity journey? Second, using the knowledge management unit that was rolled out yesterday for capacity building, including creating of a yellow directory which can be used, leveraging the urban invest window, and then of course few others which we also discussed. So I started off with closing the loop, but where we came is, while we close the loop for solid and liquid waste management, we are actually opening the future. And this is where we end Lifestyle for Environment. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद मिस मिश्रा। और अब समय है हमारी आखिरी प्रेजेंटेशन का ऑन हाउसिंग इकोसिस्टम मेकिंग हाउसिंग एक्सेसिबल टू एवरीवन बाय मिस्टर कुलदीप नारायण जेएस हाउसिंग।
Thank you. The topic for our breakout session was housing ecosystem, making housing accessible for everyone. There are two aspects of the discussion that we had. What is our vision of accessible housing? Every family owning a house somewhere in the country, and every individual able to get house either on own basis or rent basis wherever he goes for purpose of work or any other reason for economic opportunities. That is our vision, and we are talking about both own housing and rental housing, how it is central to cities that we are talking about. Being a diverse topic, we chose some of the aspects of this topic, that is how creative redevelopment can be taken with instrumentalities like TDR, policy initiatives, and area-based creative redevelopment. And then we talked about various initiatives taken for promotion of rental housing, the shelter fund and financing mechanism. We also discussed what could be the institutional and legal reforms, also building upon technology, through which more and more individuals, landlords and tenants can be asked to onboard national rental housing repository, and what could be the role of private sector in affordable housing. So these are the kind of areas on which we deliberated. What are ways to promote rental housing? Close to 25 to 30% people are living in one or the other rented houses, and believe me, this is the most fragmented, most unorganized sector of urban India. Then urban planning and land management. What could be the policy and regulatory frameworks working in the housing sector? How do we improve the affordability and financing mechanisms? What could be technology and innovation and institutional and private sector role? So while we talk about it, there is something we agreed upon. You cannot delink housing from economics of the city, economic activity of the city. And if you talk about services, then urban planning, urban transport and urban housing. You try to delink one from the other and you have already lost the game. So this is one vision we started with, we shared it, that if we want to provide accessible housing for all, we have to take all the three together and unlock the code of providing all the three. When we come down to housing, there is a vicious triplet as far as owned model of housing is concerned, where a lot of state governments and central government has concentrated upon till date. One, most of the shortage, close to 80% of the shortage is in small compact houses, EWS and LIG sectors, and there is a lack of availability for EWS and LIG housing, compact housing. Very less EWS houses or small houses are getting built. There is a already crowding out. Margins are more in high-end and luxury housing. So, problem of availability. Then comes the affordability. A lot of MIG beneficiaries are crowding out the true EWS and LIG families. So, those who actually need the small houses, they cannot afford it, and moreover, even if house remains affordable, availability of home loan, particularly those who are not having any salaried income or income tax return, that is the biggest problem for all. So availability, affordability and home loan availability, these are the three vicious triplets if we talk about own model of housing in urban India. Again, trying to define what were the challenges we observed. One, lack of authentic data. In which city, how many houses built, how many on rental mode, what is the average cost, what is the average income, whether considering 25 to 30% household expenditure on housing, electricity, water, etc., is it affordable or not? Very less data, and most of the data is limited to bigger cities. Then actually in last many years, there is a limited increase in supply, although prices have gone up. We have vacant houses, but there are closed houses, but not available for rental because of various issues. Then we have talked about credit and speculative investment of land, nature of land. Then slum is itself a self-sustaining economic dynamics. This actually defines primacy of location over the quality of housing. This we need to solve. So this is unlike any other sector where it does not meet the demand-supply equation. There are a lot of externalities which we need to address. So after discussions, these are some key recommendations I would say. One, creative redevelopment has to be with good policy levers. It just cannot be doing the redevelopment. There has to be TOD benefits, there have to be TDR mechanisms, availability, fair, transparent TDR mechanisms. Then if we want to promote housing, particularly rental housing along TOD nodes, then we have to unlock land for dense development. We have to relax FAR. We have to release the locked land which is already locked because of various urban planning locks or some organizational issues. Integrate with urban transport housing, urban plans has to be like that, and then providing around the TOD nodes, it has to be either rental housing, affordable housing, or some work environment. That is the way we have to talk it. Everyone has to either walk to home from the metro or walk to work. Then fiscal and planning incentives are important to access to housing. We have examples of states like Tamil Nadu, where dedicated shelter funds have been created and very much successful in creating not only supply of compact housing, but also rental housing. Those are the ones which need to be adopted and replicated by particularly bigger cities. And then here comes the most important of all, if we are talking about metros, that rental housing ecosystem has to be reformed. Model Tenancy Act has to be adopted with changes for the local needs, and also as thought about in Model Tenancy Act, we have to develop National Rental Housing Repository Framework and incentivize onboarding. There can be ways like income tax rebate. There can be ways like rebates in property tax, which enable all the stakeholders like landlord and those who are taking on rent to onboard the repository. There can be rankings. We discussed a lot of things, but I think 10 minutes would be too less to discuss the outcomes. But that is the direction where we can go. Model Tenancy Act along with the housing repository can go a long way of promoting fair and transparent rental housing ecosystem. And one issue that came up, which I would like to highlight before ending, somehow in our urban setup, we are punishing organized investment into housing and rental housing. The municipal charges or electricity charges, property tax, water charges should be same for a building depending on the end use. If it is a residential purpose, it should remain residential, whether this rent has been given by a company or an individual, it should not differ. And so accordingly, if we take those changes, we can promote affordable housing, housing accessible to all, and a rental housing which is fair, transparent, and available to everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
थैंक यू मिस्टर नारायण। देवियों और सज्जनों, अब हम नेशनल अर्बन कॉन्क्लेव 2025 के समापन सत्र की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं। A moment to reflect upon the key takeaways and insightful discussions that defined the past 2 days of this meaningful gathering. इससे पहले कि हम मंचासीन मान्य अतिथियों को अपने विचार साझा करने के लिए मंच पर बुलाएं, we have few important launches and announcements to make that mark new milestones in India's urban journey. We'll begin with the exchange of MOUs. Regional Centers for Urban and Environmental Studies and Center for Urban Studies play a significant role in development of resource material and meet the training and research related needs of the urban sector of states and union territories. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs provides financial support to these institutions to meet these objectives, for which the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is entering into an MOU with the Regional Centers for Urban and Environmental Studies in Hyderabad and Center for Urban Studies, New Delhi. Now, may I call upon stage Shri Satinder Pal Singh, Additional Secretary Mahua, and Professor Kumar Molugram, Vice Chancellor, Osmania University, Mr. Ajit Salvi, Director, RCUES, All India Institute of Local Self-Government, Mumbai, and Mr. S.N. Tripathi, Director General, IIPA, New Delhi, for exchange of MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a big round of applause for this significant step towards collaborative urban growth. Kindly keep the applause going. तालियां बजती रहें देवियों सज्जनों. फिर एक बार जोरदार तालियां. We request the dignitaries to please come together for a group photograph. With this, we conclude the signing of MOUs. Thank you, dignitaries, for doing the honors. We now move to the launch of Sankalan 2.0 app developed by NIUA and Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, ISRO. This advanced mobile application supports ground data collection under Amrut 2.0, enabling city planners to create GIS-based master plans. By bringing powerful geospatial tools to the field, Sankalan 2.0 strengthens data integrity, transparency, and collaboration, driving the vision of smarter, sustainable, and inclusive cities. अब मैं निवेदन करती हूँ हमारे मुख्य अतिथि ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट श्री तोकन साहू जी से कि कृपया रिमोट बटन दबाकर संकलन 2.0 ऐप का शुभ आरंभ करें.
Welcome to the official introduction of Sankalan 2.0. This innovative mobile application has been developed under the Government of India's Amrut 2.0 mission by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in collaboration with IIRS ISRO. Sankalan 2.0 aims to transform urban surveying by making it smarter, faster, and more accurate for GIS-based urban planning. Traditional field data collection methods often fall short, resulting in delays and unreliable data. Sankalan 2.0 overcomes these challenges with real-time geotagged field data collection, on-site editing and verification, and improved accuracy via geofencing and on-field validation. Refined and tested by IIRS, NRSC, NESAC, TCPO, and state town planning departments across India, the app ensures efficiency, reliability, and transparency. Download it today from the Google Play Store and access training materials at amrut.iirs.gov.in. Join us in building smarter, more resilient urban spaces through Sankalan 2.0.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the launch of Center for Public Policy on Housing and Habitat at the National Institute of Urban Affairs, a dedicated hub for research, innovation, and collaboration in India's housing sector. The center will generate evidence-based insights, promote affordable and climate-resilient housing, and support policy formulation through partnerships with national and international institutions, advancing India's vision on sustainable and inclusive urban growth under Viksit Bharat 2047. और अब हम निवेदन करते हैं हमारे मुख्य अतिथि ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट श्री तोकन साहू जी से कि कृपया रिमोट बटन दबाकर सेंटर फॉर पब्लिक पॉलिसी ऑन हैबिटेट एंड हाउसिंग का शुभ आरंभ करें। With this, we conclude the launches. And now, with due respect, I invite on the dais Shri Vinay Kumar AS and CVO Ministry of Road Transport and Highways to deliver a presentation on urban bypass policy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Next. Sorry. We have been witness to very explosive growth of urban population over the recent years, and though the urban growth has been one of the drivers of Indian economy in recent times, one major casualty has been very, very severe decongestions on national highways, passing through or passing around big cities and towns. In fact, the decongestion has been so severe that there has been rapid speed drop. There are a lot of reasons for that. It's not only, I'll say congestion, but also it is aided by mix of local traffic due to the local commute, poor traffic management, encroachments, and most importantly, unregulated, unplanned river development, which goes along the national highway's length. This affects not only the logistics efficiency of our transportation sector, but also increases fuel use, idling time, and the overall transportation cost of the economy. The longer travel time also results in increased emission levels in the cities, resulting in vehicular population and vehicular pollution. So, to address the congestions of national highways in urban areas, we keep developing bypasses, we keep elevating our structures, and we also add one ring road after the other ring road. So there is a concentric development of ring roads around, one after the other. So this is a never-ending process. At present, there are various models of contribution by the state governments in our efforts of decongestion of national highways. The share of state governments in the development of national highways around and in cities varies from around 30% to 50%. For example, Bengaluru Satellite Town Ring Road had the contribution of the state government in land acquisition up to the tune of 30%. Bhubaneswar bypass, on the other hand, there we had the state government contributing around 50% of land acquisition cost. Karnal Ring Road was also built with 50% of costs shared by the state government for the land acquisition. But one major aspect of the ring roads and the bypasses which we have built till date to decongest our national highways along cities and around cities they have been mostly non-access controlled. And there has been very poor or non-existent cooperation with the urban local bodies, with the state government also. That resulted in rapid and unregulated river development. That led to congestion, and finally, we had to keep building on one ring after the other concentric ring. So we need to have a policy to ensure investments in our national highways around cities so that the logistic efficiency improves, cost reduces, and the pollution levels, emission levels also come down. This is one case of Indore city, which shows how the unplanned urbanization has consumed earlier bypasses, and not only the bypass, but also a distant national highway 52 passing beyond the city. So in 2010, we had a good average vehicular speed along our national highways. As we moved along, urbanization consumed the part of the ring road, and then now the whole city has expanded much beyond the ring road part, the right part of the ring road, and National Highway 52 is now threatened because the sprawling urban growth will also consume this one. So there is no end to the development of national highways along the ring roads, and we need to do something concrete so that our national highways are saved. So this is how it has happened. Another case study is Madurai, where unplanned urbanization has actually resulted in a very severe speed drop. So if you move from National Highway 744 to National Highway 785, or from 44 to 785, that is from south and southeast to northeast, there is a speed drop of 50% inside the congested urban stretch. That is shown in the red. So the speed drops to around 27 km per hour, though the speed on the periphery of the town is around 54 km per hour. In fact, we keep studying this reduction in speed across national highway pairs in major cities throughout the country. And everywhere this is unmistakable that the speed drop has been substantial, which has actually paralyzed the movement of vehicles in the city area, and that has actually brought down our efficiency in a big way. This is the map of Bengaluru city. This is another interesting story. The first ring road, which was called Outer Ring Road, was built in early 2000. And then, as you see, that was consumed very soon. So the traffic came to a snarl, and then one had to go for another part of the outer part of the ring road. So came this one, NICE, Nandi Infrastructure Corridor. So this is shown in the red, bold red. So this was another measure to actually alleviate the congestion over there. In fact, the state government also planned to add to the part of this NICE by adding the northern arc, but that never came up. Today we are building Bangalore STRR, the northern ring, part of the ring, and the southern is planned, which has yet to be sanctioned. So we came with the first ring road, and then the outer ring road was soon consumed. Then we added another layer. The city keeps growing. Finally, STRR is coming up. So the investment never stops. The construction never stops. And the irony is, this is not because of the developmental needs. This is because we have not managed our national highways in such a fashion that they are soon choked and they stop actually catering to the needs for which they have been developed. So keeping in mind this need of decongestion of the stretches in major cities, we have identified all major cities where we need to have some interventions along our national highways. Out of 497 cities, based on the population of 2022, which have population of more than 1 lakh, 83 have population of more than 5 lakh, and the 20 of 4 to 5 lakh, and 69 between 2.5 lakh to 4 lakh. Rest have population ranging in 1 to 2.5 lakh bracket. Other urban agglomeration, that is at least 2 towns within a distance of 10 kilometers coming together because of continuous urbanization, they will also qualify for policy interventions, and we'll also consider northeastern cities and towns as case-to-case basis. So this shows the prioritization of how we have been moved in decongestion of national highways in and around our cities. So out of 83, we have already completed decongestion work for 3 urban agglomerations: Delhi, Visakhapatnam, and Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. So our ring road or bypasses, whatever interventions were required, have been completed in these 3 agglomerations. In 32, it is at different stages. Somewhere it is completed, somewhere it is under implementation, Somewhere it is still under approval, but we have moved beyond the first step. DPR is done and the steps for development are in the offing. For the rest 14 plus 34, 48 cities and towns, we need to have a prioritization framework, and that has to be objective, and that this is for these 48 cities that we have come out with the bypass policy, primarily for these 48 cities, but that would also guide the ministry in future for all major urban decongestion plans. So these are the features of our policy. All our corridors which pass through or pass around cities and urban areas will be fully access controlled. So that means that they would be fenced and they would have designated entry and exit ramps, and only through designated entry and exit ramps would we allow any kind of connectivity to other roads. But these access controlled stretches of national highways will be integrated with the master plan in accordance with Article 243ZD of the Constitution, which speaks of the town of the district planning committee and the master plan of the cities prepared by them. So access controlled stretch, which is fully in sync with the integrated master, which is fully in sync with the master plan of the city. We will build service road on the inner side of the city. The state or the urban local body is free to add to the other side also if it requires, but our plan will include the city side development of service roads along the urban stretches. There would be a development control zone of 15 meters on either side, so which would prohibit any kind of construction over there except for public utility, etc. They have to be notified in advance. There would be a regulated development zone which the state government would have to notify up to 2 kilometers from the edge of one side of the national highway. And we'll have a standard ROW of 60 to 75 meters in big cities having population of 5 lakh and more, and 45 to 60 meter in cities having 1 to 5 lakh population. We'll also denotify other stretches of national highways inside the cities, because once we build our ring roads or bypasses, we will denotify the earlier part and they will be handed over to the local government or to the state government for their upkeep and maintenance. So, in nutshell, this will be a policy which will integrate the master plan with the national highway development with these features of access control so that they are not consumed and exhausted by unregulated urban development. So these are the options available to the state government for the funding of these urban stretches. So the state can go for the straightforward 50% cost of land acquisition. Most of the states are anyway doing that. This is a standard mandatory feature now. And once we take up any urban bypass policy, we do insist that the state government foots up to at least 50% of the land cost bill. If the state finds it difficult, then there is another prevalent model. The state can go for 25% of land cost, and it can reimburse the SGST part of the GST as well as the royalty on minerals, which are in only notional loss because they would accrue only because of the development of national highways. But the last two one are what we are now preferring, because we will like the states to move on to these four. The earlier two ones, the first two ones are traditional model. The last two ones are one where we actually think the state government can go for urban planning in a big way. Land pooling as well as value capture financing. Under the land pooling model, the state would provide the land for bypass or ring road, pool through land pooling. And they would also reimburse SGST and royalty, but they will have 50% of toll receipts for the next 10 years. So the government of India will share the toll receipts with the state government, with the state, which may go to the cities directly, up to 10 years. So this is something which is coming to them by way of revenue if they go for land pooling. Another one is value capture financing, where along with reimbursement of SGST and royalty, they will have to give the value capture of 50% of the value capture up to 15 years. But that would be kept at the 50% of the total project cost. So here the land is coming from the value cap, the land is coming after the land plan, value capture finance up to 15 years period, capped at 50% of the total project is to be shared with the Government of India along with the reimbursement of SGST. So state is not only unlocking huge land for development of in urban areas, but also after 15 years or up to 50% of the project cost, the state gets that revenue. So without bringing in any investment upfront, they can go for this model. In fact, there are several mechanisms which have been recommended by MIUA, which can be explored for value capture financing. For example, transfer of development rights, land value tax, etc. This is the last one which is very ambitious, but which should be the way to future. These are several models under the value capture finance. The first one is straightforward. The state can straight away enhance the stamp duty or the transfer duty by around 1 to 2%. It will be very high impact. So 50% of the project cost would be met even in a period which is less than 15 years. The state can increase annual property tax on properties present in influence area. So it will have moderate impact. The state can also allow the trading of purchasable floor area ratio. Again, limited impact, and development or betterment levy will also be of one-time and limited impact nature. But these are the models through which finances can be raised to meet the project cost to the tune of 50%. So here the money is coming from value capture financing. The state is not putting in from its own coffer in the beginning. And over a period of 15 years, up to the tune of 50% of the project cost, this can be met through the value capture. But the last one has the potential of revolutionizing urban development by unlocking huge untapped lands in the urban areas. So this is the collaboration mechanism which we have suggested in our policy. That the land acquisition notification under Section 3A of NH Act would be published within 60 days of alignment finalization, which the ministry will do. But the state government has to notify the development zone within 3 months of the 3A notification, that is intent to acquire land. And an MOU will be signed by the state government with MORTH before the appraisal of the projects. So these are the free conditions so that we go to appraisal body along with the MOU with the state government. MORTH will coordinate with the state government, and we also intend to provide some capacity building support to the state governments to implement value capture finance models. Here, the help of MOUA would be actually very, very welcome, and we are working in close coordination so that this model can actually become successful in attracting investment in urban decongestion projects. We will also include MOUA representatives on all appraisal bodies, including in the ministry. So this will be in coordination with MOUA and the state government. This is a prioritization framework. We will have 2 categories of states, and 50% of our intended investment it will be earmarked for the 2 categories. These are the criteria of selection. Urban center population and sprawl will have 20% weightage. Traffic congestion 40% and freight traffic assessment 40%. Freight assessment would be through GST toll data, and traffic assessment would be our own FASTag data. So these are quite objective parameters, and the prioritization would be, I think, very, very objective on this framework. And we'll also score each city NH pair across city or inside the city for calculating the weightage. And the prioritization framework will be done in such a manner that the cities having or agglomerations having highest score will be top on the list. So these will be the benefits from decongesting national highways. Logistics efficiency would actually go up, our cost of logistics would come down. This is what we intend to do in our logistics policy. As you know, this is a big barrier to make our exports cheaper across the world. So this will go a big way in reducing our logistic cost and boosting our export potential. This will be economic growth potential because urban areas will be unlocked to a big extent, and your transit-oriented development or even your development-oriented transit will also get a big boost. We'll have cleaner safer cities because the idling time of vehicles would be minimized, so that would also reduce the emission levels. You will have flexibility of choice because the state can go for the straightforward 50% or 30% land acquisition cost sharing model to value capture finance. And we will be there to provide any kind of hand-holding and technical support to the state governments because this is an area where we all need to move fast and the technical expertise with the local bodies may be very limited. So that's where we need to step in, and I think the contribution of MOHUA and MOTH to this sector through VCF would be instrumental in having our national highway networks actually catering to the need of not only the local commute traffic, but also the traffic through traffic along or around the cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful presentation. I now request Mr. V. Uma Shankar, Secretary MORTH, to share his thoughts on urban bypass policy. Can we please welcome him on the dais?
Honorable Union Minister of State for Housing and Urban Affairs, Chairman of the Economic Advisory Council, Secretary of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Honorable Ministers from states, the Additional Chief Secretaries, Principal Secretaries, and other officers from the state, officers of MOHUA, and assembled dignitaries. We just kept a small snapshot of what is the proposed urban bypass policy. Essentially, it looks at merging multiple objectives. If our cities have to be decongested, then we need to segregate traffic. Traffic that is not bound for the city should not enter into the city. Right now, there aren't many options. So once the non-city bound traffic does not enter the city, then some element of decongestion will happen within the city itself. 2 is to use the construction of the new bypasses as a center of new development. As a city grows, it grows organically. But can it grow in a planned manner with a center of economic development arising? And that is where the bypasses come in. Recently the cabinet approved a proposal for construction of a bypass for the Bhubaneswar-Cuttack area, where the principles have been applied and the government of Odisha has gone ahead to plan a lot of new development centers around this new bypass. Similarly, Telangana is planning, we are planning a ring road for Hyderabad, and the government of Telangana has started planning for that exercise where new development, new industries, new growth centers can come up around the bypasses. So it is not just the metro. It is a highway also which can give you the elements of the planning that one is looking for: walkability, new centers of development, economic growth. And in a sense, transit-oriented development has been pretty well limited to metro and rail projects. The idea behind the urban bypass policy is to expand it beyond metro and rail, which are pretty expensive projects, and also look at highway projects. And highways being new centers of development around cities. The third aspect that is one is looking for is regulated development. Planning, urban planning has been discussed, has been spoken about for many years. But retrofitting urban planning in a developed area, in an area which is already grown, is difficult. But planning can certainly be tried out, or regulated planning can be tried out in areas which are new, which are virgin, and which is likely to come up along the new bypasses. So can these areas where urban planning will be simpler to enforce, it will be easier to manage, and you can actually work on a blank slate, which will start spurring the urban planning capacity building within states, at least in the local bodies, if not the states. That is the third objective. And the fourth objective is, of course, value capture, which is linked to the developmental aspects and transit-oriented development. Because once value capture comes in, then the pace at which the infrastructure expansion can happen can also grow faster. The objective of the Government of India is not to create a revenue source for Government of India, but is to create a planned development with a revenue source for the local bodies and the states. And these are areas where enforcing these kind of thoughts would be easier as compared to the rest of the city or the area. That is broadly what has been aimed, what has been looked at insofar as this is concerned. There is another element that was it was flagged here, but I'll need to draw specific attention to it. Is the no construction zone and a utility zone along the expressway or the highway, the bypass. We are always looking for ROW. The problem in urban centers is getting land for development. The utility segment that will form a circumference around the city can be used for carrying drainage lines, can be used for carrying water pipelines. There are cities which are looking at building metro rail or a ring rail which comes along this road. So there are multiple possibilities possible. And if an integrated planning exercise is done, I'm not talking about just transit-oriented or a landscape development planning, but an infrastructure development planning, then the whole thing can be brought in together. And that will become a composite exercise. Breaking silos is important. And when you look at a city, there are many players in cities. And national highways are an important player. We wanted to integrate ourselves into the urban planning and urban development exercise. If we can start off with a few cities which look upon this, and maybe Bhubaneswar, Cuttack could take the lead in that, maybe Hyderabad could take the lead in that. I mean, I come from Haryana, and the expressway, the peripheral expressway construction has actually boosted economic growth. We have had new industrial development sectors coming up along the new expressway. Investments running into at least 50,000 crores have already come in. Just because there was an expressway that was built, and just because there was a vision that we will carry a orbital ring corridor along this road. So this can really spur economic activity as we move towards Viksit Bharat. I would also take this opportunity to mention a couple of actions being taken in the ministry, specifically in the area of public transportation. One of the problems that has been felt is that when metro rail comes up, it doesn't get sufficient passengers because of the last mile, first mile conundrum. We are proposing to amend the Motor Vehicle Act, which will provide an automatic permit for last mile, first mile transportation to metro rail administrations. That will have a huge effect on an integrated transport planning. So the metro rail administration can actually work towards ticketing and service, transport service, picking up a person from his house, getting him to the metro station, moving him through the metro, reaching the destination metro station, and then drop off from that metro station up to his destination. Single ticketing. If that can happen, then even people who are to undertake this exercise urban commuters are very time conscious. This will provide that element wherein they will give an integrated service to urban commuters. And this is an area, although the amendment in the Act likely to be tabled possibly in this session of Parliament, if it does pass, then the next steps would be to plan this at least in those cities where metro rail process have started. This will also smoothen and simplify the process of integrating first mile, last mile transportation with a through transportation that a metro rail provides. We are also planning, we have used in the highway sector, process municipal solid waste for highway construction. We had a national workshop in which we have broadly decided that up to 25 kilometers, I think the cost of transportation is inbuilt into the SBM grants that are provided. And between 25 kilometers to 75 kilometers of carriage, the cost will be built into our highway construction contracts. And beyond 75 kilometers, we would look for a contribution from the ULB. So in a sense, it frees up your landfills also. The soil, the earth, after processing that accumulates in landfills, can get used productively for highway construction. With these measures, even at the state level, I would suggest that urban development and road development can be thought of, planned in an integrated manner, and traffic management is becoming a bigger and bigger issue in the states, in our cities. On that also, I think there is a movement ahead for electronic enforcement, but that's a separate exercise. It's been a wonderful conclave here, and I'm sure there has been a lot of learning that people who have attended this conclave have received from the presentations of the breakout sessions. One could really see a lot of thought that has gone into this entire set of deliberations, and I'm sure if the lessons learned are taken home and they are brought down to actual implementation, we will be able to see a new urban regeneration in the times ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable suggestions, for your words of wisdom. और अब मैं श्री श्रीनिवास कति कितला सेक्रेटरी महुआ से अनुरोध करती हूँ कि कृपया अपने विचार साझा करें.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy Sunday afternoon. I don't think you would have ever imagined that you'll spend a Sunday afternoon like this. So it's very remarkable. Honorable Minister of State, Union Minister of State for Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri Tokan Sahu ji, Honorable Chairman of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Professor Mahendra Dev ji, my senior colleague, dear friend, and a member, co-member of the sectoral group of secretaries on infrastructure, Shri Uma Shankar ji. In fact, I must at this point talk about the sectoral group of secretaries because he spoke about desiloization. In the Government of India, all the departments are organized around sectors in order to desiloize. So the infrastructure sector, comprising 6 ministries, mine and his including, and 10 secretaries meet regularly to work out solutions that can connect each other, desiloize. Honorable ministers from the state governments who stayed on for nearly 2.5 days, honorable mayors, my senior colleagues from the state governments, my senior colleagues from the ministry, senior colleagues from the multilateral institutions, think tank organizations, very, very dedicated youngsters who have come in from the various SPVs, various organizations, and I'm particularly delighted that large sections of industry are represented here, which is a very different thing, a different flavor for a typical intellectual conclave that tends to happen. Members of the academia, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is a matter of great honor and pleasure for me, as I mentioned yesterday, to be standing here and acknowledge the enormous energy that all of you have shown, the enormous intellectual output that has come out, which has been presented in the last 2 hours in terms of the the reporting from the breakout sessions, and the participation from the various ministries who have come here. Here today are also gathered many of our senior colleagues from the central government. We have specifically requested many senior central government officers who are not necessarily working in this sector, but who have in the past had worked in this sector, who have exposure to this sector, from the precise perspective of taking in their inputs also as we go forward in building this urban agenda. So I welcome all of you to today's valediction of this, I would say, this version, I would not even say this version, this slice of urban conclave. What I'd like to say is this urban conclave is not an annual event. It is almost like a continuous event, continuous action. Just as urban sector itself is extremely dynamic, this conclave also is dynamic. I'll illustrate it very soon. As you all know, Honorable Minister has been organizing series of regional meetings. Very recently, less than a fortnight back, we had the South Zone meeting. Next fortnight, we are having the Western Zone meeting. So throughout the year, he intends to physically meet. So there is a different level of engagement that is going on in the nature of a conclave. But today, as I heard the output, I requested our colleague, the esteemed director of the NIUA, I request you, Debulena ji, please stand up and take a bow on behalf of all your colleagues who have put together a phenomenal conclave. Really, fantastic job done. I had requested her that the outputs that came from the 7 breakout groups, they need to be converted into granularly actionable items. So we are putting together a small challenge. The challenge is that anybody who is interested, any academic institution, any think tank organization, any researcher who wants to pick on any of these elements and convert them into actionable plans. We want 10 out of each of these 7, that is 70 actionable plans. They will be assessed by NIUA and accepted by the concerned Joint Secretary together with their mentor groups. I will request some of the senior colleagues from the states also to participate so that you accept what is being presented as something that is actionable. It may be a great idea, but not every great idea can be grounded. So whatever is accepted as a great idea, we will certainly incentivize it. The cost of effort also, I'm sure, Debulena ji is very generous. She will ensure that you will not go out of pocket. So, but the point is that we have 2 important dates coming up, and that is why I say that this is a conclave in session. The session is not yet over. The first date that is going to come up in this context is on the Good Governance Day, Atalji's birthday, which is celebrated all over the country as Good Governance Day, where, as I had mentioned, we will also be commemorating through a convocation the passing out of many of our senior urban colleagues who have been certified as urban professionals. Together with that, we will have this review of these actionable items as an output of this particular conclave. So I'll request all of you who are currently here, please respond to this, please pass on this message. Let us take this on as a challenge, because unless we actionize these good ideas will remain on paper. And on this point, I will strongly urge my senior colleagues from HUDCO, and as bankers should be, I know they are conservative, but conservatively be proactive. Out of these good actionable items, if there is an investable or an investment-oriented proposal, please fund it. I want you to carry it to the investment stage. It is not enough to simply talk. It is not enough to simply ideate. It is not enough to simply put something on paper. We have to put money on the table. Let's talk with our wallets. So please respond to that. That is what will also give us traction in the UI win environment that we are building together. The second point I wanted to make is that on the 13th, 14th of December, we are planning, and the state government of Sikkim has kindly agreed to host us in Sikkim Gangtok for understanding what should be the appropriate framework of managing materials that we consume. Not waste, solid waste, not liquid waste. We'll call it material that is consumed and it is in a circularity. But this is a conclave, or this is an area, or this is what we might say is a meeting where all the hill states, that is of course Uttarakhand, Himachal, the Union Territories, Ladakh and J&K, and the northeastern states are being invited to prepare their own pilots, so that that pilot responds to your own unique needs. Every state, every union territory has its own specific need. The plains model is not going to work for the hill state area. So therefore, I have just consulted the Honorable Minister. He has kindly agreed to make this idea work and make this idea talk, and talk with money. He will tell us how much money he will release in his remarks. But a hill and Himalayan city focused fund is being created for a period of 1 year to enable this pilot projects to progress. On the 13th or 14th of December, we will discuss these pilot ideas, and the recently launched, yesterday Honorable Minister launched the knowledge management unit. It will help in granulate this idea. It will help in conceptualizing these ideas, ensuring that these ideas can work. So in this particular initiative, I will request all the states to kindly participate. The third point I really wanted to say here is something very important that is coming up, but it is about 6 months away from now. We have the honor, India has the honor of leading the BRICS summit next year. And our minister and our sector, Honorable Manohar Lalji, will be chairing the BRICS Urban Summit next year. So all the BRICS ministers dealing with the urban areas will be gathered in India. In the third week of April, we are putting together the BRICS Urban Forum, and together with that is the Urban Tech Expo. This is an important initiative of the ministry. Yesterday I had mentioned that we are a technical ministry. All of us represent technical responses, and we are sitting on tons of technical expertise. So what we are also doing in parallel, along with the BRICS Urban Forum, is putting together a large urban expo exhibition, which will have participation from the foreign companies, domestic companies dealing with our sector, the various products and services that our sector needs, and including potential diplomatic engagement. We have been talking to the European Union, number of our partner organizations, multilateral organizations, which will enable capital investments. This is extremely important for all of us who are gathered here, because this is an area that we lacked. This sector lacked that front, that visualization, that place where we could network, that place where we could identify potential technologies, the place where we could market our products, the place where we could bring this entire marketplace together. This marketplace is being put together for the first time, and thereafter regularly, perhaps once in 2 years, in parts of the country, but this time it is going to be tentatively in Delhi. And this particular expo and forum is going to kickstart a lot of investment activity. And here again, HUDCO in the UI Win framework is going to play a big role. I will strongly request all my colleagues from the state governments, all the partner organizations, please identify your potential benefit from this forum. You have a 6-month headroom. You will be able to plan, identify which of your companies can go and set up a stall there, which of these companies you would like to reach out to, what kind of partnerships, what kind of matchmaking, what kind of marriage can we have. It is only by bringing in technology that we will be able to accelerate urban development. That is the second important thing that's going to happen. And the third, I want to say at this juncture, yesterday I quoted the Honorable Prime Minister's mandate quite extensively, how he has nudged us on 3 different occasions by telling us various elements, and which led to the creation of this particular this conclave and this phenomenal energy. He also said one more thing, which is, can our country not have 50 global cities? I am now inviting all of you to ideating what should be a global city. Can you think of your own area, your own city to become a part of this framework of 50 global cities? There is no challenge. What we are trying to do is we'll share with you a template. A template is already ready. It has fairly detailed elements to see what area, what city can be done on a not a challenge basis, but on a ability basis, an appropriateness basis, so that there are 50 counterpoints, 50 points, 50 magnets in our country, in the geography of our country, that can resonate, respond, interact, and be the integrating points with the global economy. So which are those 50 global cities? What should each of those global cities have? What should be those elements? Some we have been able to think through. I'd invite you to participate, because once the template is ready, we will try and persuade honorable ministers to create some kind of a challenge framework where we will help you create those conditions. Of course, creating a global city involves investments. That investment is going to be huge. And as the Honorable Minister Manohar Lalji yesterday said, we require close to around 80 lakh crores of investment in the next 10 years. A lot of this money is available. In fact, more money is available than we can absorb. The point is, how do we reach that? So this will enable the potential investor also to know that there are these 50 points that are already pre-identified, that are ready to receive you with a welcoming arm and in a welcoming environment. Friends, I don't want to take any more time. We have already now closing actually lunchtime on Sunday. I should not impose on that. I only want to say thank you very much to my colleagues who have put this together, to Mr. S.P. Singh. Please stand up. And his entire team, whoever is there, kindly stand up. They have put in a phenomenal amount of effort. In 9 months, they have actually transformed what in urban areas. So typically, urban sector is so amorphous. What is urban? What is not rural is urban. From there to say that, okay, urban is potentially this conclave. Urban is potentially all these faces. Urban is potentially all these relationships. Urban is potentially all these institutions. Urban is potentially all these networks of knowledge that we have just created. Honorable Minister launched this particular knowledge network for housing, which again is extremely critical. This also has relationships with overseas institutions, including the University of what in Netherlands? IHS Netherlands. So we have all of these collaborative frameworks that have been put together. And from becoming a ministry that represents a vast amorphous sector, from a department that represents a series of departments, from an organization that has multitude of organizations, we have, I think, cohesively combined into becoming, slowly becoming, not yet become, we are getting there, we are on that path, to become a team urban, Vikasit Bharat that the Honorable Prime Minister has mandated us to do. So once again, I thank you all for this immense participation, for your contribution to this, for your energy that you have brought here, and for your really, I would say, kindness in sparing your time for this effort. And therefore, on that happy note, I will welcome all of you to be a part of Team Urban Vikasit Bharat 2047. Ladies and gentlemen.
धन्यवाद सर आपके प्रेरक विचारों के लिए. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor, Professor S. Mahendra Dev, is the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and one of India's leading development economists. He has earlier served as Director and Vice Chancellor of IGIDR Mumbai, chaired the Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices, and been a member of the National Statistical Commission and Vice Chairman of IFPRI's board. With over 150 publications and 23 books to his credit, Professor Dev's work has been deeply influenced inclusive growth and development policy in India. It is now my honor to invite on the dais Professor S. Mahendra Dev to deliver his address. Can we extend a warm welcome to him on the dais?
Honorable Union Minister of State for Housing and Urban Affairs, Sri Sahu ji, Umashankar ji, Srinivas ji, and delegates from all the states and the other participants. A very good afternoon to all of you. So it's indeed a privilege to address you all at the National Urban Conclave, a gathering dedicated to the vital theme of sustainable urban development and governance. So as India continues to experience rapid urbanization, our cities stand as both engines of economic progress and also societal transformation. So urban centers have several challenges, but it also gives opportunity for us to reimagine, redesign and re-energize our urban spaces. See, the 7 sub-themes discussed at the conclave are very good, and the summaries were excellent. In fact, they were covered almost all the issues and possible solutions for urban development in India. As Mr. Srinivas was mentioning, I hope the actionable points will be there, for all these themes. So I congratulate and compliment the Ministry of for organizing this important conclave. So urban issue has to be put in a macro perspective, because urbanization not alone, it has to be part of our economy. So at macro level, in spite of global uncertainties and trade, tariffs and all, Indian economy is resilient, and it is fastest growing economy, and we are going to move towards a third largest economy soon. But there are protectionist tendencies at global level. So the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, wanted domestic reforms. So first we started with GST reforms, and now we're also focusing on deregulation and ease of doing business. So these will help the urban development also. So one has to look into the urbanization as part of the large macro economy. And at Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, we are also discussing policies on urbanization. Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned to us. So in my brief address, I would like to touch upon a few urban issues at more macro level, because you have gone into the deep, the very sectoral and very micro level. So the urban population numbers are known. By 2035, some projections show urban share will be 43%. That is about 67.5 crores. Second highest behind China, which will be 1 billion. By 2047, of course, the number showed 50% will be urbanized. And therefore, India has to be prepared for significant rise in urbanization. As you know, 2047 goals are 3, the Viksit Bharat goals. One is achieving developed status in terms of per capita income. Second is the inclusive growth. Third is sustainability. So urbanization, of course, also has to fit into these goals. Why urbanization matters? Urbanization is not just a demographic trend. it is an economic strategy because globally a 1% increase in urbanization is associated with 3.9% rise in GDP per capita. In India, this figure is just 1.7%. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to have more efficient urban process, which can increase growth further. So cities must become easier to live in, do business and govern. So here private investment plays an important role in the growth story of urban areas. As you mentioned, the banks also play an important role in this. So we have to plan how to attract private investment, foreign as well as domestic. Of course, PPP model is one thing. But innovations and technology play an important role for the growth. A lot of you presented many of the innovations done at local level. And transit-oriented development, urban planning are very useful for growth. Second goal for Viksit Bharat is inclusive growth, as I mentioned. So in my opinion, inclusive growth means creating quality employment. You have discussed this urban livelihoods, which is basically inclusive growth. But how much urban population participate in the labor market? If you see the employment data, for the people above 15 years and above, the rural areas it was 62%, the participation, whereas in urban areas it is 49%. So it's lower because the women's labor force participations are low in urban areas. Because if you see the numbers, female workforce participation rates, in rural areas it is 47%, in urban it is 26%. So there is we have to increase much more the women's participation rates in labor market in urban areas. According to the employment data 23-24, nearly 61% of the urban workers in India are engaged in the service sector. It underscores the centrality of services to India's urban employment structure. And at the same time, 40% of the urban workers are self-employment. You also discussed the self-employment, which continues to account for substantial share of urban jobs. This also shows the urban entrepreneurial dynamism, but also many informal workers. We discussed the street vendors, and for them, credit is very important because otherwise they have to go to money lenders for at high interest rates, sometimes even 100% interest. So credit and also skill upgradation, digital skills, financial literacy, these are important. But of course, urban manufacturing is also equally important. In fact, even urban agriculture, there is an increase in recent years. And also migrants constitute nearly 35% of India's urban population. Because they are coming male migrants, particularly, the primary motivation is better job prospects. So we have to take into account this in urban planning, the migrant population and all. Of course, another source of employment which the Honorable Prime Minister talks about is the tourism. Because tourism, where employment, we are, compared to many other countries, our tourist numbers are less. So there is a lot of scope for increase in tourism. And regarding housing, you all discussed the vision of housing for all represents a cornerstone of inclusive urban development, because the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has made significant strides in expanding access to formal housing. And initiatives such as Real Estate Regulation and Development Act and reforms with regard to insolvency in real estate have built greater confidence now in the urban areas. But also there is a need to assess the supply side constraints such as land use regulations, cumbersome procedures and other bottlenecks which constrain supply. Hopefully the committees which are doing ease of doing business and all look into this. The third goal of Viksit Bharat is sustainability and climate resilience, because we all discussed the circular economy, how we have to do, because a lot of climate resilience also we need for urban areas. And we have seen the circular economy good practices like Mahakumbh Mela in UP and also Sikkim. So these are important and they have to be replicated in other areas. Regarding transport, I think very good presentation on public transport and all, because it lies at the heart of cities' growth and efficiency. However, given rising environmental concerns, the future of urban mobility must rest on low carbon solutions, such as, of course, electric buses, metro systems, non-motorized transport corridors, all this. Because you can see particularly in Europe, the public transport is very efficient thing. So why can't we have that's the kind of models? Turning to local bodies, under the Constitution, responsibility for matters related to urban development primarily rests with the states and urban local bodies. However, the union government plays an important role because it gives a programmatic support and also the support to the capacity building and other things also. And the union government has laid the groundwork with key initiatives like Amrut and also many other programs including DRAP and UWIN. So building on this momentum, Budget 2025 also announced 1 lakh crore Urban Challenge Fund to develop cities as growth. So a close cooperation between the union and the states is essential for urban development. So empowering local bodies, as you discussed, is very important because a study shows that spending at the discretion of local government is 51% in China, 27% in US and Brazil, but only 3% in India. So the discretion at the local council level. So states have to do more decentralization in this respect. Because as cities expand, local government must have authority, capacity, and resources to address challenges related to growth, employment, housing, waste management, transport, and climate resilience. So I think this is an important area where you discussed capacity building of the local bodies, but also we have to also strengthen their financial base, as mentioned, the property tax reforms, user charges, and also innovative instruments like municipal bonds, so that can improve their finances. And this will also attract private investment if very efficient local bodies will attract private investment. Lastly, urban policy must now shift in 3 critical ways, because so far we are relatively welfare to we have to move to proactive growth. Schemes so far have focused on affordability and utility. India must now map investment flows from a long-term strategy for the country and urban citizens. Second one is from fragmentation to holistic planning. As you mentioned, we are working in silos, so we have to have several departments together and convergence of governance, infrastructure, mobility, and environment in an integrated way. Third is also on definition of urban areas itself. In fact, among academicians, a lot of debate on the definition, because some people think the census definition is outdated. We should also use new data sources like satellite imagery, built-up area matrices on economic activity to reclassify urban areas in real time, because maybe our urbanization is much more than what is given in census and other things. So in conclusion, India's urbanization journey presents both formidable challenges and opportunities. There are also best practices in urban governance across the world, like Singapore and European cities. I have seen the exhibition outside, the 15-minute, Viksit, the urban areas like Milan, kind of things, Copenhagen, Dutch, and also Amsterdam and other cities. So why can't we have our own cities, as you mentioned, 50 global cities in India? So I think the best practices presented in all these 7 sub-themes will be very good to replicate by other states. So once again, I compliment the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs for organizing this important national urban conclave. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू सर फॉर योर इंस्पायरिंग एंड इंसाइटफुल वर्ड्स। और अब मुझे सौभाग्य प्राप्त हो रहा है कि मैं हमारे कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि श्री तोकन साहू जी, ऑनरेबल यूनियन मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट फॉर हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स, से अनुरोध करूं कि वह समापन संबोधन प्रदान करें। आइए ज़ोरदार तालियों से इनका मंच पर स्वागत करें।
नेशनल अर्बन कॉन्क्लेव 2025 के इस आयोजन में हम सबके बीच में उपस्थित मंच पर विराजमान आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की आर्थिक सलाहकार समिति के चेयरमैन श्रीमान महेंद्र देव जी, हमारे मंत्रालय के सचिव श्रीमान के श्रीनिवास जी, सड़क परिवहन एवं राजमार्ग मंत्रालय के सचिव श्रीमान उमाशंकर जी, इस आयोजन में हम सबके बीच में उपस्थित हमारे आदरणीय नगरीय विकास मंत्री श्री A.K. शर्मा जी, उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार, राजस्थान सरकार से नगरीय विकास मंत्री आदरणीय खर्रा जी, मंत्रालय के सभी उपस्थित सभी अधिकारीगण, सभी सम्मानित अतिथिगण, इस सम्मेलन में भाग लेने वाले संगठनों के प्रतिनिधियों, प्रेस मीडिया के सभी साथी, सभी मेरे साथ काम करने वाले सभी अधिकारी यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं। मैं बहुत सम्मान के साथ आप सबका अभिनंदन करता हूँ, आप सबका स्वागत करता हूँ। हमारे महापौर भी उपस्थित हैं। मित्रों, पिछले 2 दिनों से आप सभी की उत्साहपूर्ण भागीदारी ने इस आयोजन की गरिमा बढ़ाई है। इस कॉन्क्लेव का उद्घाटन माननीय केंद्रीय मंत्री आवासन एवं शहरी विकास मंत्रालय श्रीमान खट्टर साहब जी ने किया और समापन के अवसर पर आप सबसे जुड़ने का मुझे अवसर प्राप्त हुआ है। यह मेरे लिए बड़ी प्रसन्नता का विषय है। और आज जब हम भारत के शहरी परिवर्तन के भविष्य की दिशा तय करने के लिए हम सब लोग यहाँ पर एकत्र हुए हैं। नेशनल अर्बन कॉन्क्लेव 2025 ने सरकार की उस प्राथमिकता और प्रतिबद्धता को प्रदर्शित किया है जिसके अंतर्गत हम स्वस्थ, टिकाऊ और समृद्ध शहरों के निर्माण के लिए लगातार काम कर रहे हैं। यह देखना सुखद है कि जब आज इस मंच पर देश के हजारों श्रेष्ठ मस्तिष्क अमृतकाल के शहरी विमर्श को आकार देने के लिए एक साथ आए हुए हैं। हम सभी का एक ही साझा लक्ष्य है, विकसित भारत 2047। एक ऐसा भारत जो वैश्विक स्तर पर दृढ़ता, नवाचार और समावेशी विकास का प्रतीक बने। यह केवल राष्ट्रीय लक्ष्य नहीं बल्कि हमारा सामूहिक संकल्प है। मित्रों, पिछले कुछ सालों में भारत में शहरीकरण की गति अभूतपूर्व रही है। ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों से लोग बेहतर शिक्षा के लिए, स्वास्थ्य के लिए, रोजगार की तलाश के लिए शहरों की ओर आ रहे हैं और ऐसा अनुमान है कि वर्ष 2050 तक देश की शहरी जनसंख्या 876 मिलियन से अधिक हो जाएगी। वर्ष 2030 तक हमारे शहर देश के सकल घरेलू उत्पाद में 70% से अधिक योगदान देंगे। अर्थात भारत के शहर आर्थिक विकास, तकनीकी प्रगति और सामाजिक परिवर्तन के प्रमुख इंजन बनेंगे। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मेरे सहयोगियों ने 7 ब्रेकआउट सेशनों के आउटक्रम पर अपने प्रस्तुतिकरण में बताया है कि हमारे शहर प्रति वर्ष 60 मिलियन टन से अधिक ठोस अपशिष्ट उत्पन्न करते हैं और अपशिष्ट की मात्रा आने वाले कुछ ही सालों में 165 मिलियन टन से अधिक होने का अनुमान है। उत्पन्न अपशिष्ट को सही ढंग से संभालना भी एक बड़ी चुनौती है। स्वच्छ और विकसित भारत की हमारी दृष्टि हमें प्रेरित करती है कि हम अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन के ढांचे को रणनीतिक तौर पर मजबूत करें, जिसमें वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट, निर्माण एवं विध्वंस अपशिष्ट संयंत्र और अन्य आवश्यक सुविधाएं शामिल हो। साथियों, स्वच्छ भारत मिशन की शुरुआत के बाद भारतीय शहरों की अपशिष्ट प्रसंस्करण क्षमता 2014 में 18% था। अब इसे बढ़कर के 2024 में 80% हो गई है। अब हमें इसी दृढ़ता और उत्साह के साथ आगे बढ़ना है ताकि स्वच्छ और स्वस्थ शहरों का हमारा लक्ष्य साकार हो सके। और इसी को और गति देने के लिए हम 1000 करोड़ का हिल एंड हिमालय सिटी फोकस फंड बना रहे हैं, जिसका लाभ पूर्वोत्तर के राज्यों के अलावा जम्मू कश्मीर, उत्तराखंड, हिमाचल जैसे पहाड़ी राज्यों के अलावा लद्दाख जैसे केंद्र शासित प्रदेश को मिलेगा। हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के विकसित भारत का दृष्टिकोण ऐसा है कि जहां प्रत्येक शहरी नागरिक, चाहे वह स्ट्रीट वेंडर हो, चाहे कचरा प्रबंधक हो, चाहे निर्माण श्रमिक या गीग वर्कर हो, सभी विकास के गरिमापूर्ण भागीदार बने। हम केवल गरीबी उन्मूलन की नहीं बल्कि सशक्तिकरण और उद्यमिता के लक्ष्य की ओर हम बढ़ रहे हैं। देश भर में यह परिवर्तन स्पष्ट रूप से दिखाई देता है। हल्द्वानी में बहनी सेना नामक महिला स्वसहायता समूह ने कचरा संग्रहण को एक संगठित और आत्मनिर्भर व्यवसाय के रूप में बदला है। डूंगरपुर में सोलर सहेलियां न केवल घरों में रोशनी लाई हैं बल्कि महिलाओं के नेतृत्व में सोलर पैनल के निर्माण से भविष्य को भी रोशन किया है। स्वयं सहायता समूह और संयुक्त देयता समूह जैसे आपसी सहयोग आधारित मॉडलों के माध्यम से हम बिना गारंटी वाले ऋण उपलब्ध करा रहे हैं। स्थानीय उद्यमिता को हम बढ़ावा दे रहे हैं। साथियों, दशकों तक हमारे शहर असंगठित तरीके से फैलते रहे। इस अनियमित फैलाव का सबसे ज़्यादा प्रभाव हमारे गरीब जनता, मध्यम वर्गीय परिवार और नौकरी पेशा में लगे लोगों पर पड़ता है। जब उन्हें रोजमर्रा की ज़रूरतों और आने जाने पर न केवल अधिक पैसा खर्च करना पड़ता है बल्कि उनका समय और ऊर्जा भी खर्च होती है। इसलिए अब हमें शहरीकरण के इस पुराने मॉडल से आगे एक नई दिशा में आगे बढ़ना होगा। क्षेत्रीय योजना के माध्यम से हम अर्बन सेल्स जैसे विकास गतिविधियों के केंद्र और रोजगार क्लस्टर विकसित कर रहे हैं, जो निवेश, रोजगार और किफायती आवास को बढ़ावा देने का काम करेंगे। इस नए शहरी मॉडल के केंद्र में टीओडी है, जो केवल एक और योजना मात्र नहीं बल्कि एक परिवर्तनकारी दर्शन है। इसका उद्देश्य है कि शहरों को ट्रांजिट कॉरिडोर के आसपास विकसित करना है ताकि लोगों को रोजगार, आवास और जरूरी सुविधाएं आसानी से मिल सके। दिल्ली, तमिलनाडु और महाराष्ट्र जैसे कुछ राज्य और केंद्र शासित प्रदेश टीओडी को अपना चुके हैं। टीओडी आधारित शहरी विकास के इस मॉडल को प्रभावी और व्यापक बनाने के लिए हमने एक सुदृढ़ सहयोग प्रणाली स्थापित की है। मेट्रो कॉरपोरेशन, सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग सेंटर्स के साथ समन्वय स्थापित कर हम राज्यों और शहरों के प्लानर्स के साथ मिलकर कार्य कर रहे हैं। वॉक टूवर्ड जैसी अवधारणा को साकार करने के लिए हमारे सामने एक और बड़ी चुनौती है, जहां प्रत्येक नागरिक को उसके पड़ोस, मोहल्ले अथवा शहर की सीमाओं के भीतर पर्याप्त, किफ़ायती और गरिमापूर्ण आवास प्रदान करना है। जहां तक आवास क्षेत्र का सवाल है तो रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर लगभग सभी प्लेयर्स मुक्त, मध्यम और उच्च आय वर्ग को केंद्र में रख करके चले हैं, जिससे आर्थिक रूप से कमजोर वर्गों, निम्न आय वर्गों और प्रवासी श्रमिकों के लिए आवास की भारी कमी रह गई। अब हमारा मिशन है कि हम इस अंतर को समाप्त करना। ड्राइवर, प्लम्बर, कारपेंटर, इलेक्ट्रीशियन, हाउस हेल्प की ज़रूरतें सबको है, लेकिन क्या ये शहर के केंद्र में महंगे पास एरिया में रहना अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं? जाहिर है ये सब मेहनत कश लोग या तो शहर के बाहरी क्षेत्रों में या झुग्गी आदि में रहने को मजबूर हो जाते हैं, जहां सिविक एनिमिटीज न के बराबर उपलब्ध हो पाती है। इन्हें अपनी कमाई का एक बड़ा हिस्सा आने जाने में खर्च करना पड़ता है। सुबह शाम भारी ट्रैफिक जाम का हिस्सा बनना पड़ता है। वायु ध्वनि प्रदूषण का शिकार बनते हैं, अर्थात एक समस्या दूसरी बड़ी समस्या का कारण बनती है। चाहे अनचाहे इसका सबसे बड़ा दुष्प्रभाव हमारे गरीब और मध्यम वर्गीय परिवार पर पड़ता है। इसका समाधान समाजी विकास के मॉडल में है और टीओडी इसका टूल है। हमें एक शहर के भीतर कई छोटे शहर बनाने होंगे जो काफ़ी हद तक एक दूसरे के इकोसिस्टम के रूप में काम करने होंगे और लोगों को कम से कम यात्रा की जरूरत पड़ेगी। साथियों, हम अर्बन प्लानिंग, लैंड यूज पॉलिसी और इनोवेटिव वित्तीय मॉडलों को एक साथ लाकर इस दिशा में काम कर रहे हैं। जैसे प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना अर्बन 2.0 में हमने 50% अतिरिक्त फ्लोर सरफेस निःशुल्क प्रदान कर रहे हैं और मास्टर प्लान्स में किफ़ायती आवास हेतु भूमि आरक्षित करने की अनिवार्यता लागू कर रहे हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त हम वैल्यू कैप्चर फाइनेंस जैसे एकदम नए वित्तीय मॉडल को भी आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, जहां मेट्रो और हाईवे जैसी सुविधाओं के आने से जमीन की कीमतों और उसकी खरीद बिक्री से प्राप्त राजस्व के एक हिस्से का उपयोग पुनः मेट्रो हाईवे जैसी सुविधाओं के आगे विकास और किफ़ायती आवास बनाने आदि के लिए किया जाता है। इस प्रकार हम सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि शहरी विकास आत्मनिर्भर और समावेशी बने। हमें इस परिवर्तन की गति और दृष्टि को निरंतर बनाए रखना है। केंद्र, राज्य, शहरी स्थानीय निकाय और निजी क्षेत्रों के सहयोग से हम केवल मकान नहीं बनाएंगे बल्कि समुदायों का निर्माण करेंगे, समावेशिता को बढ़ावा देंगे और हर भारतीय के पास घर के आधार पर विकसित भारत के सपने को साकार करेंगे। और मित्रों, जब हम विकसित भारत 2047 की ओर अग्रसर हैं, तब हमें यह स्वीकार करना होगा कि हमारे सामने स्किल गैप एक बड़ी चुनौती है। दुनिया के सर्वश्रेष्ठ मस्तिष्कों को भी बदलती तकनीक और ज़रूरतों के साथ साथ स्वयं को अपडेट रखना पड़ता है। इसके लिए हमने क्षमता निर्माण यानी कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग को अपने सुधारों के केंद्र में रखा है, जैसा कि अमृत, SDM और NIUA जैसे कार्यक्रमों में किया जा रहा है। आई गाट अर्बन प्लेटफॉर्म और मिशन कर्मयोगी के समन्वय से हमें यह सुनिश्चित करना है कि शहरी विकास की प्रक्रिया में लगे पेशेवर लोगों को तकनीकी और प्रबंधन इनपुट्स नियमित रूप से उपलब्ध हो सके। निरंतर सीखने और नवाचार की संस्कृति को प्रोत्साहित करना आवश्यक कदम है। स्मार्ट, लचीले और टिकाऊ शहरों का निर्माण करने के लिए हमें पहले कुशल और मोटिवेटेड मैन पावर की उपलब्धता सुनिश्चित करनी है। अभी हम सब ने हमारे सभी अतिथियों की बातों को हमने सुना। 2 दिन तक के आप सब लोगों के बीच में एक सार्थक चर्चा हुई है। इन्हीं सब बातों के साथ मैं आप सभी को इस ऐतिहासिक प्रेरणादायक सम्मेलन का हिस्सा बनने के लिए मैं एक बार पुनः आप सबको हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं। अंत में मैं आप सबसे पुनः कहना चाहूँगा कि आपके विचार और आप सबके सुझाव भारत के शहरी विकास की दिशा तय करेंगे। मैं आप सभी से आग्रह करता हूं कि आप इन सीखों को अपने अपने शहरों में ले जाएंगे और भारत के उज्ज्वल भविष्य के लिए आवश्यक और साहसिक कदम उठाएंगे। एक बार पुनः आप सबको धन्यवाद देते हुए अपनी बात यही समाप्त करता हूं। जय हिंद, भारत माता की जय।
माननीय मंत्री जी, आपकी प्रेरणात्मक शब्दों के लिए, आपके निरंतर सहयोग के लिए आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद। अब मैं श्री दिनेश कपिला, सीनियर इकोनॉमिक एडवाइज़र को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूं कि वह धन्यवाद ज्ञापन प्रस्तुत करें।
Good afternoon and namaskar to all. Honorable Minister of State for Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri Sahu ji, Shri Mahendra Dev ji, Chairman Economic Advisory Council to the PM, Shri Uma Shankar sir, Secretary Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Shri Srinivas sir, Secretary Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, distinguished guests, dignitaries, delegates and my colleagues from Mahua. It is indeed a great honor and privilege to extend the vote of thanks on behalf of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Over the last 2 days, this conclave has truly been a celebration of India's urban transformation journey, a journey defined by ambition, innovation, and collective responsibility. The conclave has brought together policymakers, practitioners, academia, industry partners, and development agencies to deliberate on pathways towards Viksit Bharat 2047. We have explored diverse themes ranging from regional planning, TOD, urban mobility, livelihood, circular economy, housing, and strengthening of urban governance. Each session has generated valuable ideas and insights that will guide our collective action in the years to come. At the very outset, we express our deepest gratitude to the Honorable Union Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri Manohar Lal ji, whose inspiring inaugural address yesterday set the tone for this conclave. His call for cities to be the driving engines of growth and innovation resonate deeply with the aspirations of a new urban India. We are equally grateful to Honorable Minister of State for Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri Tokan Sahu ji, for gracing the valedictory section today. Our special appreciation and gratitude to Shri Mahendra Dev ji for his thought-provoking address that reminded us that inclusive policies together shape the foundation of India's progress. Our special thanks to Shri Uma Shankar ji for his insightful address, and special thanks and gratitude to Srinivas sir for his leadership and clarity of purpose that anchored this conclave. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your continuous guidance and support. Our appreciation goes to all the distinguished speakers, session chairs, and panelists for their contribution across the 7 breakout sessions. Our heartfelt thanks to all those who worked behind the scenes, the officers and the staff of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and the team from NIUA led by Kundu ma'am, who ensured that every session, exhibition and the interaction ran seamlessly. A special thanks must be made to the creative and the technical teams of ITDC, which were engaged in the exhibition design and for ensuring that our digital presence via live streaming was of the highest quality. We are also grateful to the teams of HUDCO, CPWD, NBCC, and also to the Yashobhumi management for organizing the event. Finally, our heartfelt thanks to all the participants in person and online for your engagement, ideas, enthusiasm. Even on the weekend, around 2,500 people participated, both online and offline mode. Your presence and commitment reaffirm our shared goals of building sustainable, inclusive and resilient cities for a Viksit Bharat. Thank you once again. We look forward for continued collaboration. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we conclude National Urban Conclave 2025. We once again thank our Honorable Chief Guests, esteemed dignitaries on the stage for their gracious presence. We also thank our esteemed dignitaries off the stage, our delegates for their participation and support. We now request you to please join us for lunch. May I request our dignitaries to kindly proceed to the VIP lounge on the 5th floor for lunch. For our delegates, lunch is organized in the pre-function areas on 5th and 6th floor. We also encourage you to kindly visit the exhibition during the lunch time, which is on the 6th floor in Palash B and C. Thank you very much, and we wish you a great day ahead.